What was the best paint scheme of 2024? Let's talk about it. Hey everyone, it's Taylor Kitchen and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line on the ATYL Media channel, where we do motorsports media your way. And on this show, we talk about NASCAR all the time. And before we rank these paint schemes, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell so you know when we post. I love the off season because the news slows down a little bit and I get to focus a little bit more on creative content. And you all know I love talking about diecast and paint schemes and all those things. And with this video ranking the best of the best paint schemes this season, I really get to highlight the folks that made these paint schemes possible, the incredible work of the graphic designers for the teams and everything in between. So I love making this video to highlight them, the awesome schemes that we saw this year, but it also allows me to reflect and think back on moments this season that I totally forgot about. And when I see these paint schemes, some of those memories just come flooding back. So all these paint schemes in this list are either some that you brought to my attention or just some of my personal opinion thrown into this. And as opposed to years past where I excluded some patriotic paint schemes as well as the Darlington throwback schemes, anything that hit the track this season has the potential to be in this list. All paint schemes will be graded on a scale of F being the lowest of the low to S tier being the highest of the high. But just as a reminder too, these are all what I consider the best of the best paint schemes of this year. So if it gets an F ranking, it's not that it's bad, it's just it wasn't the best of the best. The last note I want to make before we dive into this is that if a car did not run more than 3 races, not the paint scheme, but just the car number in general, I did not include a paint scheme for that number in this tier list just to condense it a little bit. So hopefully you like the cars I put on this list. There's probably some I might have missed. Let me know in the comments as you go along. But without further ado, let's get to it. Let's start out with the number 1 of Ross Chastain. And I will say all of the Busch Light schemes this year have been winners. I love them all, especially the primary scheme, the best primary scheme we've had for Busch Light in a very long time. However, I went with the scheme that he had at Nashville because it was just so original, so unique. It really highlighted the Nashville vibes with all the different patterns, just the cool styles, the mountains. I fell instantly in love with the music notes. I guess we're gonna start off with an S tier paint scheme. I fell in love with this, especially with the chrome red. You can't go wrong with a chrome red. So this is definitely an S tier. We're starting off on a high note. This scheme is an absolute freaking banger. I loved it. And then we move on to a scheme that's pretty basic. After we started off on such a high note, we're to the number 2 discount tire for Austin Cindric. I really do like this paint scheme. Again, a reminder, these are the best of the best paint schemes. I really like this one of the number 2. However, I do like the discount tire on the number 12 a little bit better just because of how the spacing works with the logo on the side of the car with the number. It's nice. But I'm gonna give this one a D. Wow, we really fell down a bit of a ways again. It's not because I don't like this paint scheme, but compared to the others we have on this list, it's pretty basic compared to the rest, so it's going to get a D. Moving on to number 3 of Austin Dillon with his Bass Pro Shops hunting sale car that he had at Richmond for the Cookout 400. And here's why I really like this car, other than the camo. I'm a sucker for camo on a car. But they effectively use the space on the car to not only promote the brand and the company, but to promote something that the brand is doing right now, a hunting sale, big sales, big discounts, whatever at Bass Pro Shops. I think that is such an effective use of your space as opposed to just plastering your logo and your company name on the car 5 different ways. We all know it's the Bass Pro Shops car. We can see it on the hood. Tell me something I don't know. Yes, they put the logo on the quarter panel, which is awesome, but you use what should have been or could have been dead space on the side of the car in a way to promote more than just here is who we are, which I really do like. Marketing wise, it's a huge win. I like the look of the car itself. Like I said, it's an effective use of the space on the car. There's no glaring dead space. This one for me is gonna get a B. Again, it's not like my favorite scheme ever, but I have to commend it for utilizing the space that the car has really well. Moving on to the number 4 of Josh Berry, and I picked the Sunny D paint scheme for him. Now, when I think of this scheme, I think more of the 17 car, so I'm thinking years back, as opposed to it on the 4, so it's still a little bizarre to me. But I will say with the scheme, I like Josh Berry's Sunny D fire suit more than I like the paint scheme itself. Every color has a place on the car, but it still feels a little too chaotic for my liking. The hood, I don't like the design on the hood. It makes the logo feel weird. Again, it's a really fun paint scheme. It's one of my favorites from the 4 this year. I like that the product is featured in what would have been dead space on the car, but it's just kind of too clunky. So for Sunny D, I'm going to put it in the D category, unfortunately. On the theme of food, this next scheme needs no introduction, and you all already know where I'm going to place the Kellogg's throwback car of Kyle Larson. It's going to go in S tier. You all have seen my content. You all know why this scheme means so much to me. I knew this scheme before I knew what NASCAR was with toy cars that I played with as a kid. This scheme is so special to me. I have the die cast somewhere on these shelves back here. They really did it justice. They really honored Terry in a great way during the Darlington weekend. I love this. Automatic S tier. I'm biased here, but I don't care. Definitely the best scheme that the 5 ran all season long. I am glad somebody finally decided to do this, and none other than for Hendrick Motorsports to put this on the number 5. Awesome. Let's move on to another throwback car, talking about Brad Keselowski's Castrol TMD Toyota Super GT throwback scheme on his Ford Dark Horse Mustang. I love the look of this scheme. It's very clean, concise, looks great, honors the original. I will say there is too much just empty space on the hood that I don't think looks great, but the framing of the lines around Castrol just make it work. It's beautiful. I really want to get this die cast. I don't remember if I have it pre-ordered or not. I guess I'll find out after this video, but I really do like this. This is going to get an A for me. And also, again, adding on to the fact that it is a race-winning paint scheme, kind of adding to the mystique of this throwback scheme for Brad. But yeah, definitely an A tier. Everything we've seen so far has been pretty clean and slick. And then I got to the number 7, that is either going to be a Corey LaJoie paint scheme or a Justin Haley paint scheme. And I saw this, the Optic Gaming Game Bridge scheme that they ran at Martinsville. I love the creativity of this. You don't see a lot of like original art, or I guess like design in this sense, on a car really. Now the flames, that's basic. We see flames on a car all the time. But the hood, whatever monster is on the hood, I love that creativity, the ingenuity. It draws your eye to this car wherever it is. At Martinsville, I had my eyes locked on this car all the time, even though the 7 really wasn't a factor in the race. I just thought this was cool as hell. So for that reason, I'm gonna give this a B. I would kind of lean towards putting it at an A, but I am gonna put it at a B. It is a really busy paint scheme, but ultimately we do need more just creative art on these cars, creative and unique art. So that's why I'm ranking this scheme so high. I think the flames kind of knocks it down a little bit for me because it is basic, but I feel comfortable putting that at a B. And we go from something incredibly creative to something pretty basic, the number 8 Lucas Oil car for Kyle Busch. Now it's basic, but it's clean, concise. It fills the space on the car very well. The big, bold Lucas on the hood, you know exactly what this car is because, I mean, you can't miss it. The word Lucas is everywhere. With that said, though it is clean. It is very basic compared to the rest we have on this list. It's gonna be my first F on the list. I hate to say it, I'm sorry. It's a beautiful paint scheme, but to me, it's too basic for right now. So we're gonna put it at an F. We're kind of going back and forth from super creative to basic to now creative, and I adore this scheme and everything that surrounds it. It is the number 9 Napa Children's Hospital Chevrolet from Atlanta in the fall. And this is just such a cool initiative that Chase Elliott does every year. The Design to Drive, where 2 cancer patients at Children's Healthcare of Atlanta get to design his car and his fire suit. And you can see just the love and care that these kids put into designing this paint scheme, the awareness that it brings to supporting those children that are fighting this horrible illness of cancer. But seeing them get to go to the track most of the time, get to see their design live in person, the experience that they get to have is so cool. And this is so creative. The little details on this car are so fun to look at and point out. This is automatically an S tier for me. There's so much heart and love put into this scheme. It is so hard to put it anywhere but at an S tier. It is beautiful. I adore it. It's an S. Moving on to the number 10 of Noah Gragson, and this one was very easy for me. I picked the Miller Tech Ford that he ran at Dover for the stupid simple reason that there is a lightning bolt on this car. Whenever there is lightning on a car, I automatically gravitate towards it. And what I liked about this scheme in particular is from the nose of the car on back, around the skirt of the car, you see just kind of like electricity or like lightning strikes at the bottom, which I thought was a really cool touch, adding some texture to the car. Overall, it's really clean, it's slick, does the sponsor well. I'm gonna give it a C, kind of middle of the road for me. Not a bad scheme by any means. It's pretty creative. It's just not quite there to where I would have it breaking kind of that middle of the road line. Next up, the number 11 of Denny Hamlin, and I feel weird having not picked a FedEx paint scheme because I wanted to pay tribute to them and all they've done for the sport, but ultimately my favorite paint scheme for Denny Hamlin was his throwback scheme to Ray Hendrick, this number 11 with the wing on it. It looks so good on this Sports Clips car. I will say I don't like the empty space under the Sports Clips haircuts. Obviously, it's a throwback scheme, so you want to mimic the original scheme as much as possible, so I can't knock it completely for having all that empty space, but I love the ombre, or I guess the flow of the red to the black on this car. It looks clean, it's concise, it's creative, it pays tribute to the original and to Ray. I'm gonna give this one a C. It looks really good. Moving on to the number 12 of Ryan Blaney, and I struggled with this one just a little bit because I like the advanced auto scheme on the 12. I also like the discount tire scheme, but I went with the body armor zero sugar scheme for a few reasons. One, I like how you have the product on the hood. It's an effective use of space. You're not overcrowding the car with just the name of the company and that's it. Like it's original in a sense, which I think is cool. I also like this like purple red. I'm gonna call it maroon. I know it's not, but maroon, or I guess berry color on the car as well. It's unique with the silver. I think it looks really cool and sleek. I don't like how simple the side of the car looks. I think you could have maybe played with the lines on the side of the car. It's just a little too simple for me. That's why I'm going to put it at a C. But again, I like how you're drawing attention to the product itself on the car. Anytime you have like a food product, I think it should be on the car. No doubt, I really do. So for that reason, I'm gonna put this at a C, but it's not bad. Moving on to the number 13, and I chose Shane Van Gisbergen's WeatherTech paint scheme. And I will say this video, I'm noticing a trend of where I'm really harping on just empty space on the car. Not every space on these race cars needs to be filled, but there is something to be said when you have a blaring gap on the side of the car that just feels empty and nothing's there. It stands out and it feels like a waste of space. So with this WeatherTech paint scheme, I don't like how big of a space there is between the WeatherTech just name and the 13, but the chrome red, oh, love. I love the use of the W on the hood. It fills the hood very nicely. This scheme, and WeatherTech for me, the schemes that SVG runs are always winners. It's the empty space that I don't like, so I'm gonna give that one a C as well. I actually like the WeatherTech scheme better on Zane Smith's car that he ran for the 600, not 600, the 500 this year. I didn't pick it for him though, so we'll get to that when we get to that. But yeah, that's a pretty good scheme. But again, when you move the number forward with this, I don't know. For Chase Briscoe for the number 14, I chose his scheme from Darlington. I love the design in the black on this car. Very techy, very cool. It is very basic. It's a cookie cutter scheme where you just kind of like plug and play the sponsors. You put different colors in the same place all the time, and there you go. Because of that, I'm going to give it a D. I do, again, love the original design in the black area of the car, but it's a little too basic for my liking, so it's going to sit at the D tier on this list. You all know I like clean designs on a car, and so when I saw this Arby's car for the number 15 that Cody Ware drove, I had to pick this one. I will say too, I don't know if this was an intentional detail or not, but the side of the car filling in that empty space with the, I guess, white squiggle, it kind of mimics the top of the Arby's hat, which I thought was really cool. But I will say, I wish kind of sort of they would have put something Arby's related, like a product like a sandwich or whatever on the side of the car. But I think this paint scheme is better served by that not being there, so I'm okay with it. But it is pretty basic. I'm gonna put it in the D category. Again, I guess looking back at it, I'm totally fine with them not having a food product on the side of the car. Like, it's fine, it looks great the way it is, but it's pretty plain. Moving on to the number 16, and I struggled with this one, I really did, because the Wendy's cars were so good this year. I wanted to choose the Spicy Nugs paint scheme at one point. I wanted to choose the base Wendy's paint scheme that they used this year, but the Project Wyoming car caught my eye that Derek Kraus ran because of the original artwork. I love the colors on it. When you see it, you think Wyoming, you think whatever, like it's really cool. I liked it. But there was one thing that bothered me about it that is knocking my rating down. What is Project Wyoming? What does it do? So I looked it up. And Project Wyoming is a 350,000 square foot industrial building development in Madison, Wisconsin. Not Wyoming, Madison, Wisconsin. And it's ready to serve the needs of any community or company in industrial manufacturing or distribution marketing. So when you have a company called Project Wyoming and that's what it's marketing or kind of pushing you towards, I'm confused by the whole darn thing, and the paint scheme does not give me that vibe at all. So there's a big disconnect between the paint scheme and what they're actually trying to sell you. I thought that was really weird, which is why I'm gonna give this a C. I know this is just a paint scheme ranking list. I understand that, I really do. but I also want it to make sense. It needs to make sense in my brain logically, so that's why it's gonna be a C. Otherwise, the paint scheme is beautiful. I really like it. Moving on to a more simple scheme, this Chris Buescher scheme that he ran at Chicago, the Fast and All with the stars on it. I just think it's very pretty. It's cute, it's simple. The stars fade to the back half of the car. Again, basic, but the stars is what makes this one. I'm gonna give this one a C as well. We're really filling up the C category here. I'm realizing this at this point, but I think the next paint scheme is gonna be a banger and is gonna go higher than a C, so we will see. Because the next number in our list is number 19, and there was no doubt in my mind that I wouldn't be choosing the Homestead Miami throwback from his championship in 2017 that he ran at Homestead Miami this season for Martin Truex Jr. Automatically, this tier gets an A for me. And again, it's more of the sentimental value, but I really did love this paint scheme, and they made it work with the number placement moved forward. So props to them. I like this scheme a lot. It's gonna be an A. For me, I think the, company of the year when it came to paint schemes was Mobil 1. All their paint schemes across all series they were in looked stellar. And for Christopher Bell in the number 20, that is the scheme I went with. It's just slick and cool and clean. I like how the colors on the car, like the red, for instance, isn't just like a basic line or a swoosh. Like it's different, it's fun. The Pegasus on the car looks beautiful. The hood, everything on this car makes sense, and you're utilizing the space on the car in the proper way. It looks sleek. I got to see this car in person and I loved it. This one, it's gonna get an A. It's close to an S tier, but for right now, it's gonna get an A. For Harrison Burton in the number 21, there was not a lot to pick from, but I was drawn to this Draver, I think is how you pronounce it, paint scheme, because it is different than anything else he's run. I love the black and gold look. I think it looks stellar. Use of space was pretty good. I love how just the random lines on the car are with the gold. This is gonna be a really weird one to put in a B category, but I'm gonna give this one a B. I think it looks really good. Now for Joey Logano in the number 22, Pennzoil was on the car practically all season long, minus a few times where you might have seen like Hunt Brothers Pizza, for instance. But I really did like this scheme that he ran at Martinsville with his foundation on the hood. It's really cool to have your own foundation on the hood, promoting a really good cause. It looked kind of weird on the car though, I'm not gonna lie. So it is a great cause. I just didn't like how it looked at the end of the day. I'm gonna put it at a D tier because I also do just like the basic Pennzoil shell scheme. I think it looks good, but how it all came together, I think ultimately I'm gonna put it in a D tier. Moving on to the 23 car, and I struggled for this one. I actually put up a poll on Twitter asking you all what was your favorite scheme for Bubba Wallace from a list of 4. I gave you all the Columbia scheme with the gold chrome 23 that I adored. I gave you all the Mobil 1 scheme. I also gave you all a McDonald's scheme that I really liked. And then the Star Wars scheme. And I ultimately went with the Star Wars scheme because 1, who doesn't like Star Wars? I grew up with Star Wars in my life. And 2, the Darth Vader on the side of the car looks so cool and almost like the light from the lightsaber kind of shining on his mask. Like, I just thought that was really neat. It's a cool way to end the season. The promotion around this was awesome with Columbia. You guys are gonna hate me for this. It's not my favorite paint scheme ever, but I thought it was cool enough to make this list for me. I'm going to give it a C. You guys are gonna hate me, but I'm gonna give it a C. It looks kind of weird, kind of cool. I don't know. I'm kind of not a fan of the Darth Vader on the side of the car, even though it's cool. I just don't, it feels out of place with everything else. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna give it a C because it is cool, even though I don't totally love it. I need to stop talking. It's so hard for me to explain how I feel about this scheme, but it's gonna get a C. For William Byron, I think the best thing they did to this Exalta scheme was give it a white base. It makes the flames pop. I really like it. It's basic though. When you have the confetti on it from the Daytona 500 win, it looks fantastic, but this is pretty basic. I'm going to give this scheme, I think honestly, an F. It looks too plain for me, but the flames are really cool, but the 24 is gonna get an F. I'm so sorry, but again, best of the best paint schemes from this year. I do love this one, but compared to the rest, it's just not the best. With Daniel Hemrick in the number 31, I went with this LA golf scheme. I just like the texture of the golf ball on this car. I think it looks really cool. I think they utilized the space as well as they could. The hood looks cool. I'm gonna give this one a B. It's not bad. I feel like this is like, I'm rating these so weird this time around, but I just like the creativity with it and incorporating just, what your company does onto the car in a way that's not cookie cutter. I thought this was really cool, so it's gonna get a B. Michael McDowell, the number 34, I went with the Charlotte Knights paint scheme. And I will say, typically, if a scheme is too basic, it automatically gets an F. This is a case where the scheme is way too busy and I don't know where to look. I love it though. I think it's awesome. The hood looks great, but everything else on this car is just too much. I'm gonna give it an F for that reason, but I like the colors. I like what the scheme is for. I like the company. I like the team, I guess, but that's just, it's so much. It's so cool, but it's so much. For Todd Gilliland in the number 38, I had to go with this paint scheme. I mean, there should be no question about it. The use of the space on the hood is super creative, putting the donkey on there. The side of the car, I love the design on the white, so it's not just completely plain. Like, it's so creative. It's gonna get an A. I really do like this. It's a great way to display the product, the product mascot. It's cool. Definitely gets an A. For Ryan Preece in the 41, it seems pretty obvious to go with the Wonder Bread paint scheme as my scheme of the year for him, but I went a different direction, in a more biased direction. So I picked his Old Armor Brewery paint scheme, and I'm biased in the sense that I've been to this brewery a time or two. I like the vibe, I like the drinks. I do have a few cans of the SHR beer, and it's owned and operated by combat veterans who served overseas, which I think is really cool as well. So for that reason, this was my pick for Ryan Preece. I don't love the paint scheme. I do think some of the cool designs on this really up it from an F to like a D for me. I do like, again, you have the product on the car, which is cool. I'm probably gonna put this one at a high D, and potentially leaning into the C category. Again, not my favorite paint scheme, but I do like the brewery. So it's kind of like hit and miss for me, but it's gonna sit in the D category. For John Hunter Nemechek in the number 42, I went with the Olipop paint scheme. It looks so good. Unfortunately, this was the best photo I found of that paint scheme, so apologies on the photo I used with the car a little wrecked. But I just like the branding for Olipop. It's really cute, it's fun, it's vibrant, bright green. I also like how you have the logo around the tire, not cutting through the tire, which I think is pretty neat. So again, basic, it's clean. I'm gonna give this one a C. I believe this is the second patriotic scheme that we have in this video. I can't remember at this point, but I finally put another like truly patriotic paint scheme in here that we had for like a 4th of July race, Memorial Day race, something like that. This paint scheme for the Coke 600 for Eric Jones looked so good. We're so used to seeing the Family Dollar scheme in a certain way, and I love the add of just the stars, the stripes. It was cute. Again, same critique as a lot of these other cars. There's a lot of dead space near the quarter panel. They filled it the best they could. That's fine. But it's a fun scheme. It's not super cohesive though, so that's why I'm going to probably give this one an F. But I do really like the stars and stripes. I like where they were going with this. It just doesn't feel complete to me, which is why it is going to get an F. The 44 car ran 3 or more races this year, so I put it in this list, and ultimately, I like the Ollie's car. Ollie's Good Stuff Cheap. Everyone knows the brand. They used the hood effectively. I like the cartoon vibe of the car. It looks really good. It pops. This is gonna be crazy. I'm gonna give this paint, well, I was gonna give it an A, but I really do feel like it fits in the B category. Same kind of vibe with like the original art style on this. I like that it fits the brand. Even too, from the font of the number on the car, it still was with the font, but they played with the shadowing on the number, so it still feels kind of cartoony, which I really do appreciate. So you're really, you know, putting yourself all in on the brand that is sponsoring you, which I think is really cool. So I'm gonna give that a B. I think that's solid. Tyler Reddick's paint scheme for Michigan was beautiful. Again, it was really hard to pick between all of the Jordan cars that he ran this year. I thought they all looked wonderful, but ultimately just the ketchup drip on the car at Michigan sold me. I don't like how the M looks a little compressed towards the bottom of the car on the side, but ultimately this is definitely a win. It's simplistic, but it has a little oomph with the ketchup drip. I'm going to give this one a B. At this point, you all know I like food on a race car. I just think it looks fun. And for me, with the number 47 car, there was a lot of options to choose from. But when I was looking at this car and looking at these cars, I was like, I kind of want to pick a car of a product that I like and use every day and just see how they translated that into the design of the car. And I like what they did with this silk almond milk car. I don't know why. Again, I just like the splashes of white at the bottom of the car, using the quarter panel to have the bowl of cereal with the spoon. It's an effective use of space, again, something that JTG Doherty, or now I guess Hayek Motorsports, had done so well with the Kroger sponsorship, is highlighting these sponsors and these products and brands in such a good way. And I think this was probably the best example of that this season. This is going to be crazy for Silk Almond Milk, but congratulations, y'all are going to get an A on this paint scheme. I like how this looks. It's an effective use of space and it shows the brand in a great way. Alex Bowman's number 48 ally scheme this year was fantastic. The primary scheme was awesome. I think it was the best one that they've had yet. I was gonna pick that one, but then I was like, I don't wanna be basic and just go with the primaries. So I went with this Kansas ally scheme. I love the bright, or I guess lighter purple of the leaves on this. I thought it looked so pretty. Again, it is a basic paint scheme, nothing crazy to it, but the purple light leaves I just think looks incredible. I'm gonna give this scheme a C because it is a little basic still, but again, I thought it was a great move to make the leaves or the design in the background a little different. In this case, I think that was a home run. This next car was tricky because yes, the 50 ran more than 3 races this year, but for 2 different organizations. So I was like, how am I gonna pick the paint scheme? Ultimately though, as Mobil 1 always does, it stands out. And I went with their 50th anniversary scheme that they had with 2311 Racing, the gold, the black. It looks so good. Again, it's a carbon copy of pretty much all of their other paint schemes, just with different colors, but it looks so good. This one is going to stacking up the C category, but I'm gonna give it like a C, kind of middle of the road here. It looks great. Nothing truly special here for the 50th anniversary besides the color change, but it looks really clean. Okay, for the number 51, again, changing between Corey LaJoie and Justin Haley here. I think I went with the same paint scheme I did last year, which is the Fraternal Order of Eagles paint scheme. And I just like the black and yellow on the car. I mean, above the yellow line, black, yellow, white is our brand colors. But I think this looks so cool. I think last year what I liked better, it was like a neon yellow, which I thought popped a little bit more. This one still isn't bad. I'm gonna give it a D. It is really clean. It's not too busy. There is an effective use of space, but I think it is a little too basic, so I'm gonna put it in the D category. You all knew the Interstate Battery scheme was going to make an appearance at some point, and it just so happened that it was my favorite scheme for Ty Gibbs this season. In particular, though, the scheme he ran at the Roval because of the pink window net, the pink and the green, it just pops. Wicked reference, kind of not. But it just looks so good. Again, I made the comment earlier about how sometimes lighting can be distracting on the car and the way they do it. This is distracting, but it's just on brand. It's on par. Everything else pops. I don't have a problem with this. It's classic. I'm gonna give this scheme, because it is a staple scheme, it's nothing truly special, a C? You know what? No, I lied. I'm gonna give it a B. It looks really good. I'm gonna give it a low B. For the number 62, I went with Anthony Alfredo's paint scheme, the Fortify scheme. And one, this is just for the brand itself. I like the house in between the F and the Y at the end. I just think that looks really cool. So kudos to the brand. It's very simple, it's basic. I like the matte finish of this. I'm gonna put it in the D category as well. Again, I really do like it. It's clean, but it's not like the greatest of the great paint schemes that we have on this list. For the number 66 of Josh Bilicki, I went with this Pure Kick car. I just like the bright green on it. I think it pops with the lemon, the kind of greenish water on the car. You understand it's gonna be a drink. It's clean, it's basic, but an effective use of space, I will give it that. I'm gonna put it in the C category. Now with Zane Smith, I struggled with this one because I did like the WeatherTech paint scheme that he ran for the Daytona 500. I just felt it looked better on the 71. However, when you have a chance to put a pink car into your lineup, I wanted to do that. To be clear, pink is not my favorite color. I've always really kind of hated the color pink, but I like it on a race car. So the Am Better Health car that he ran this year, I just really liked. Again, it's basic, but it gets the point across. It's pink on a car. I'm gonna give it a D. I think what saves it from being an F is the effective use of space on the car, but it is very basic. Now for Carson Hocevar, I ended up choosing this number 77 Mattress Warehouse car. I just love how it looks. First off, I love the Mattress Warehouse logo. It's vintagey, it's fun, it's awesome. I will say though, seeing it stacked against this number 7 of Corey LaJoie, what was Corey LaJoie's car at the time, it looks better on the 7. I just think it looks like the Mattress Warehouse logo has more space to breathe with there only being 1 number versus 2, but I still really like it on his car. They did some fun things with the lines on this. I'm gonna give it a B. Again, I still think I'm a sucker for just like red, white, and black cars. I just think it looks really good, but I'm gonna give this car a B. For Jimmy Johnson, I went back to just artwork on a car. A fan designed his Phoenix car, Ben Moore. It is the Phoenix Desert Sunrise car. We've seen something similar done before, but ultimately, I think it looks pretty good. It's kind of a lot on the car. The colors don't match with Carvana. It feels kind of clunky to me, but it is beautiful ultimately. And for the artistry within that, I gotta give this one at least a D, a high D. I just feel like it seems a little too busy, but it is a really pretty car, not gonna lie. Last but not least, we have reached the number 99 of Daniel Suarez, and I was going to go with his Coca-Cola 600 car with the Coke Zero Sugar paint scheme. Quite honestly, I forgot that scheme existed. When I saw it, I was kind of blown away. However, yet again, I was drawn to a bright neon car, and when I saw this Tootsie's car with the black background and just the neon like purple, I loved it. I loved it so much. Now, the render of this car makes it look more purple, right? But in person, it looked more neon pink almost when I saw the pictures from the track at Talladega. But I do really like this paint scheme. It pops, effective use of space, branding is very clear, it stands out amongst the rest, and for that reason I'm going to give this one an A. Now, typically at the end of these videos, I go back and I change some things on the tier list that I'm like, maybe I wanted to revisit, but ultimately looking at it right now, I think I'm set with where things are at. In S tier, I'm happy with the 3 cars I put there. I didn't oversaturate the S tier, which should be the highest of the highest honor, with Ross Chastain's Nashville car. We have Kyle Larson's throwback car. And then of course you have Chase Elliott's Atlanta fall car. I think those all are really worthy of S tier. Everything else, I'm good with where it's at. I'm not changing anything. That's very rare, but we're done. That's the tier list. What's your favorite paint scheme of 2024? And are there any paint schemes that I left off this list that should have definitely been there? Let me know in the comments below. And of course, if you want to make your own tier list, I have a link in the description below. But that does it for this episode of Above the Yellow Line. And before I sign off, I want to thank all those incredibly hardworking and talented graphic designers out there for making some of the best art this year. You guys have made super cool t-shirts. You guys have made some of the best paint schemes, coolest graphics. So thank you all for your hard work, and hopefully they're able to relax a little bit during the off season. For more content from us here at Above the Yellow Line, make sure to go to AboveTheYellowLine.com and follow ATYL Media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and follow all of our content creators to show them some love and support. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share this with your friends and family, and thank you all so much for tuning in, and until next time, I'll see ya. Bye.